Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Global Dialogue for Justice, where we engage the world about human rights and the injustices toward innocent members of our communities, while we strive to give a voice to the victims of brutality, oppression, repression, torture, and the new forms of genocide. And why do we want to engage our global community and ask them to stand firmer and speak louder for the victims of torture away from home? It's because we're no longer part of a small community, of a small village, of a small country. We're part of the bigger world, the bigger community. And tonight's presentation is very special because it's dedicated to someone who has the loudest voice fighting for justice for those victims of torture, kidnapping, naked searches, imprisonment of the innocents, and including the babies, and all kinds of aggression inflicted by brutal regime. So he is known to be the people's deputy. But by the end of our presentation tonight, the world will know him as the world's deputy. So engaging the world, who is Ömer Faruk Gergerlioğlu. But before that, I'd like to welcome and thank our distinguished member of our panels, Colonel Hussein Demirtaş and Dr. Bayram Arzuramoglu. They're the original advisors for the Global Dialogue for Justice. It's a hybrid bold forum that we did last year and is scheduled for this year, so please mark your calendars. And we also have Dr. Samantha Schinder. She's an amazing author, and she's my sister in skydiving. And so I thank you so much, Dr. Schinder, for joining us tonight. New to the Global Dialogue for Justice is a journalist, Mr. Yilmaz, Pat Yilmaz. So thank you so much. It's very exciting to have you tonight. So let's go ahead and start introducing. Let's start with you, Colonel Demirtaş.
So hello, everyone. Good evening. And iyi akşamlar Türkiye'ye. So we are here together again to talk about the situation in Turkey. But I see the situation in Turkey is something, the situation to the world, in the world. So it's not a simple issue. So we are not talking about numbers. We are talking about human beings. We are talking about the future of the world and the future of the humanity. Because of the position of Turkey, geographical position, geopolitical position, but also because of the historical position, the links between different cultures, nations, states. Turkey has a very important place in the world's history and in geography of the world. So I am Hüseyin Demirtaş. Most of our followers know me, but I will just talk about myself a little. A very short summary of my story. So I was a Turkish naval officer, and I started a fight against some organization. I call them Erdogan's bureaucracy. And because of that, they dismissed me. Then they added my name to the international terrorists list. So, and they have a prize for me also, 500,000 Turkish liras to my head. So I represented my country about a quarter century as a naval officer and also last 2 years as a military diplomat. Now I am fighting against, I definitely say that, a genocidal terrorist organization. This organization threatens all the humanity. I wrote 4 books in last 5 years. One is Building a Commander, but mentally and especially mentally and spiritually. Later on, I studied about 15 July event in Turkey, and I published this book also. I studied on that for 2 years. Then I saw that this 15 July 2016 event was a very simple incident in Turkish history, and it was a part of a genocidal scenario. Then I studied on a genocidal theory and this scenario and published a book, Turkish and English. I'm an author of one of these books, Erdocide. And Erdocide is a neo-modern type of genocide, includes Holodomor especially. So this Erdocide, Erdogan's genocide, I call it, shortly Erdocide, kills people economically, socially, civilly, and gradually. So I'm studying on this Erdocide, and also I am collecting whatever I can find. And today's event is a part of this scenario. Thanks a lot again.
Thank you, Colonel. So Dr. Bayram, please introduce yourself to our audience. And if you want to say hello to our Turkish audience and also to the deputy that you never know, maybe he's watching right now.
Merhaba. Dr. Gergerlioğlu. I'm an academic who was pushed by the oppressive regime of Erdogan on the ground that I wasn't supporting their policies. As anyone know from, at least from now on, that anybody who does not support Erdogan regime in Turkey are terrorists. Did you know that even let's say food sellers, food producers, children with terminal illnesses, many others, whenever they raise their voices against some sort of injustice of the government, were being accused of being terrorists. So I'm proud of being a terrorist of this regime. Thank you very much. This should be enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bayram. Dr. Shinder?
There, I unmuted myself. Hello, I'm Dr. Shinder. I am Merge's quite often devil's advocate, poser of ideas. Sometimes some of the ideas I pose are not mine, but they're fun to think about. And other times they're definitely things that I feel strongly about. But I'm just here to help facilitate the discussion. And I was deeply touched by Dr. Oh gosh, I can't, his last name, I don't speak Turkish, one of the few languages I don't speak. Gergerlioğlu. How do you say it? Help me.
Gergerlioğlu.
Help me.
Anybody? Okay. So it took me, like, I learned about him in 2018, and I was I was actually afraid to. I'd rather jump out of airplane, I said, rather than pronounce his name. But anyways, Dr. Shinder, you have books, you know, tell us, our viewers, you know, more about you. You are an author.
Oh, I write books. I write mostly fiction, women's fiction. I just finished up. I have quite a few unpublished books that are on submission right now. A lot of them have messages behind them, but I'm also just an academic, a PhD. So I listen a lot, and this issue particularly is of importance to me because it spans across cultures. It's not. I see the situation in Turkey as a very dire one, but it's also something that translates across the board globally because we're all battling sorts of types of cancel culture, if you will. It just happens to be that Turkey's example is very extreme, or at the more in a more evolved point, if you will, of allowing a regime types of power to silence people. So as a person who makes her living on words, the idea of freedom of speech and the idea of not being able to be labeled as a terrorist is extremely important to me.
Yes. So thank you, Dr. Schender. So Mr. Yilmaz, you are new to our show, and it's really an honor to have you tonight. And so, because the media, the international media, the role of the media, and what's happening in Turkey, what's happening in Yemen and Syria, it's very, very important. And so it's it's really a pleasure to have you on. So please introduce yourself and say hello to our viewers. Can you unmute?
Hüseyin abi sesiniz gelmiyor. Nothing voice.
We can hear you. Can you give Colonel? Colonel is
Okay,
gonna
can you hear me now?
we
Can you
can
hear
hear you,
me?
Colonel.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will try to translate. So Fatih Bey, siz grubumuza yeni katıldınız bir gazeteci olarak. Özellikle Türkiye'de yaşananlar, Suriye'de yaşananlar, Türkiye'deki hapishanedeki bebekler, diğer hukuksuzluklar, bunlarla ilgili dünya medyasına bir gazeteci olarak neler söylemek istersiniz kısaca? Hanımefendi bunu sordu.
Teşekkürler. Yaklaşık 4 gündür yeni kurduğumuz bir platformda canlı yayın yapıyoruz.
We have
Türkiye'nin
founded,
önemli gazetecileri.
arada ben girdi yapayım müsaadenizle. We have founded a new platform and we are making live programs, video programs on YouTube for the last 4 days. And the name of this platform, platformun ismi neydi?
Avrupa Adalet İnisiyatifi.
The European Judiciary or Judiciary Initiative. Öyle mi? Doğru İngilizcesi?
Evet. Avrupa Adalet İnisiyatifi
Justice Initiative.
bakımından.
European Justice Initiative. Okay.
Genau. Und Türkiye'den çok önemli gazeteci ve akademisyenleri yayına aldım.
So as guest speakers here accepted very famous and important journalists from Turkey. And bir de aktivistler mi dediniz? And human rights
Aktivistler,
activists.
gazeteciler, akademisyenler.
And academicians also.
Ya hepsinin genel kanaati Avrupa ve Amerika mülteciler, Suriyeli mülteciler yüzünden gerekli şeyi yapmıyor. Yani tepkiyi göstermiyorlar. Göz yumuyorlar bir nevi.
The international community does not reflect a suitable reaction to the situation in Turkey due to these Syrian refugee problem, because the Turkish government, Erdogan, manipulates this Syrian refugees against the European community and international community. This is the common idea of these academics, journalists and human rights activists.
Dünyanın birçok ülkesine gittim. En son Suriye'de ve İstanbul'da Suriyelilerle, mültecilerle ilgili haber yaptım ama şu an Almanya'da ben mülteci durumundayım.
I have visited lots of countries in the world, and now I am living in Germany as a foreigner or asylum seeker. Mülteci dediniz değil mi?
Evet,
Asylum
mülteci.
seeker. As an asylum seeker. Evet.
Ben burada çok kişiden çok ağır hikayeler dinledim. İşkence hikayeleri dinledim kaldığım yerde, yani kampta diyelim.
I have
Ee,
listened to lots of stories from the people who I met. They came from Turkey, and these all stories are very touching and very heavy stories, stories of torture, especially.
Bunların bir kısmını ben kendim de Türkiye'deyken yaşadım.
Some of them, these stories, I also personally experienced these kind of tortures and the other things.
Örneğin Türkiye'de en son siyah transporterla insanlar kaçırılıyor.
So
Ve
people are being kidnapped, and in Turkey they use a special word for that. Black transporters, kidnapping with black transporters means Turkish intelligence agency. They are collecting people, kidnapping people from all around the world, and also in Turkey as well. And yeah.
bununla ilgili ne yapabilirim diye düşündüm ve bir kısa film yaptım. Siyah transporter bir kaçırılma hikayesini Almanya'da film çektim ve kısıtlı imkanlarla, kısıtlı şartlar. Çünkü hiçbir aletimi doğru düzgün eşyalarımı getirememiştim Türkiye'de, Tayyip rejimi el koyduğu için.
So I had to
Kısa bir
leave
film
lots
yaptım.
of my my instruments in Turkey, and because of that, I was very limited to do something to publish some videos. But I have made a short movie about this people kidnapping. No, in international law, it's called enforced. What was that? I forgot it. Disappearance. So I say kidnapping, but the legal term for that is enforced disappearance.
Yeah.
Evet.
Bu filmi Almanya'da ve Avrupa'da çeşitli büyük ya da orta ölçekli küçük televizyon kanallarına, medya kurumlarına gönderdim ama ilgilenen olmadı.
I have sent this short movie, but I found no interest, no reaction from the international TV channels or other platforms. They don't have any interest on my movie.
Bu yüzden de
Evet.
sesimi nasıl duyuracağımı bilmiyorum.
So I don't know how to make people hear my voice.
Well, that's why we're doing. We're committed to engaging the global community and bringing light to what's happening in Turkey and other places, all these injustices. Because, like I said, that we are connected, and so we really have to entice or even challenge the international community to step up, to speak louder, and to really get involved,
Right.
to really take time and see and understand what's happening in the world. So
sorry, Dr. Merch. So I need to translate to also Mr. Fatih. Sorry. Evet, işte sesinizi duyuramadığınızı bildiğimiz için biz de Global Dialogue for Justice platformu olarak Türkiye'de yaşanan hukuksuzluklarla ilgili dünyanın dikkatini çekmek için böyle programlar yapıyoruz. Konuklar alıyoruz. Dünyayı harekete geçirmeye çalışıyoruz. Kısaca daha uzun şeyler söyledi ama güzel, fakat kısaca bunu ifade etti.
Teşekkür ederim. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So before we go to our first question of the night, we'd like to acknowledge the people that are joining us from all over, from different places. So we'd like to thank you so much for your important. This is an important contribution. Your comments, your questions, and we have a Q&A at the end of the presentation. And those of you, if we can't answer all of them, we will be doing it on the comment section on YouTube. So, but again, thank you so much for your participation tonight. So the first question that we have is for Colonel Demirtas, Dr. Baram, and Fatih Almas. What do you know about Ömer Faruk, and what sets him apart from as a politician, human rights defender, and as a person?
May I talk first because my battery may run out. So if you allow me, I'd like to talk first, please. Thank you. I know Gergerlioğlu personally for a few years. He was a former head of a human rights organization called Mazlum Der. That could be translated into English as the Society for the Oppressed. He was the head of that organization. And the motto of that organization, and Gergerlioğlu's motto was the same anyway. The motto was and is, we stand against all oppressors, whomever they are. We stand by all victims, whomever they are. So this is and this was their motto. We stand against all oppressors, whomever they are. We stand by all victims, whomever they are. And Gergerlioğlu is and was a genuine human rights activist, and he kept that promise of his life to this day, and he is going to keep that promise throughout of his life, I am sure. And the friend of him really disturbed the oppressive government in Turkey, because government usually use some sort of labeling depending on the circumstances of a person who is doing human rights activism. For example, if they come from Kurdish background, government labels that person as Kurdish divisionist, PKK terrorist, this and that. It's easy, and then they are taken out of the argument. If this person come say something else, they could be labeled something too, and then they could be taken out of the argument as well. But Gergerlioğlu did not fit any of those labels. He wasn't, let's say, defending some certain ethnicity. He wasn't defending some certain ideologies. He wasn't defending some sorts of lifestyles. He was defending all, basically. For example, in Turkey, many human rights organizations, let's say, just defend women's rights. That's perfect. I don't actually have any opposition to that. And some just defend, let's say, Kurdish rights. Some just defend, let's say, environmental rights, this and that, but they don't pay any attention to problems of others, more or less, let's say. I don't accuse anybody, by the way, for doing their activism. I just describing something. But Gergerlioğlu basically defended Turks' rights, let's say, even Turks' rights, even the Uyghurs. Probably many people know that Uyghurs are oppressed people in China, which is unknown or unexpected behavior in Turkey, because these sort of people's rights are usually defended by ultra-nationalists. Gergerlioğlu is not an ultra-nationalist, but he defended their rights too. Gergerlioğlu defended oppressed women, especially, let's say, religious women, for actually their right of covering their head if they wish to, headscarf. In the past, women or girls were expelled from the universities for just covering their heads, for using headscarves. Gergerlioğlu defended them. Gergerlioğlu defended many other people and groups. So Gergerlioğlu couldn't be put in any category. Basically, he has got another advantage. He's a religious person himself as well. He's not anti-religious. So the government, as political Islam, uses Islam just how should I say, to hypnotize people, and then accuse other people who criticize them as anti-Islamic or enemies of Islam. But Gergerlioğlu is a pious Muslim as well. But he doesn't use his religious practices for political gain. That is the difference between the two, if you understand me. Gergerlioğlu stands disturbed exploiters of Islam very much, because what we say, these people, Islamic political Islamists, came to power claiming that they are defending the honor of Muslim women who were wearing headscarves. But what happened? What happened? They turned into taking those women underpants. Please excuse me for that. When they are put in prison, and this government is in entire history of the country. It may go to even Ottoman time or other times, wouldn't matter. Entire history of Turkish Republic, and I'm sure entire history of Ottoman Empire, this government is the most put the most number of women in prison. I'm sure in total 30,000 women visited. By that, kept in prison, and probably 3,000 or 4,000 babies and children in total kept in prison. And what happens when those women were in prison, they were naked searched. So those who claimed that they were keeping the honor of the women disgraced those women by strip searching them, and that strip searching included their babies. That degradation didn't stay there either. Well, the government naked search even the visitor of those prisoned women. So Gergerlioğlu actually publicized this hypocrisy of the government. They are so much disturbed by this actually revelation that they felt they had to put him in prison, and they did it. How they did it, just for the audience, they put him in prison just for tweeting a neat link. Many of you would just smile at it. How could that happen? But that happens if you're in Turkey. Just to say last thing, that news is still active. The publishers are not prosecuted. I'm repeating, that news link is still active. The publishers of news were not prosecuted, but Gergerlioğlu was prosecuted. His membership of the parliament were removed for just tweeting that news link. That is the hypocrisy of this government. I stop. Thank you very much. if somehow I go offline, it would mean that my battery ran out, just for your information. Thank you very much. I the words to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Varna. Colonel, what do you know about the deputy?
So, Mr. Ömer Faruk Gergerlioğlu, I don't know him personally, and we never met him before. But I just know from the social media. But he is one of the most important characters in Turkey who is aware of this erdocide. So the situation in Turkey, I just want to summarize. First, I need to highlight something. I am not interested with him, with his political identity. So the question is, as a politician, so I will not evaluate him as a politician. So I see him just as a human rights activist, human rights defender, because he is so. So, and he is a member of parliament. So illegally, they stripped him from the National Assembly, but it's illegitimate and illegal. So still, I say he is a member of parliament. So member of parliaments are insurance of constitutional order in a democratic society, in a democratic state. And in the National Assembly, there are about 600 members of parliament, maybe exactly 589. I'm not sure, but almost 600 people. And only about 5 of them, more than 10, they are fighting for democracy. They are fighting for constitutional order. And the top member of parliament in Turkish National Assembly is Ömer Faruk Gergerlioğlu. He's a Turkish, ethnically a Turkish person, but he is a defender of human rights. It means he is representing all kind of segments, each kind of segment of Turkish society. Even Uyghurs, it means not only in Turkey. Even Syrians, it means not only in Turkey. So he's a global human rights activist. And it's not a theoretical one. He is practically fighting against all illegitimacies, illegalities in Turkey. So his party, mainly a Kurdish party, but Kurds, so they are more than 6 million people who vote for their party. With their members, it means about 15, 20 millions of people. So can you imagine the society? So it's very important. As his party. But I need to highlight again, I'm not interested with the political stance of him. He is representing all of the Turkish citizens. And this is the main element of sovereignty, national sovereignty in a democratic country. Now, Erdogan's bureaucracy kills this national sovereignty principle. So when you kill this principle, then there is no democratic country anymore. So Ömer Faruk Gergerlioğlu is an insurance of this national sovereignty. But the situation in Turkey is something different. So especially in our educational system, we are built as ultra-nationalists. So we think as ultra-nationalists. And these sensitive issues are changing the society, and they are this educational system makes all the fractions or segments of society opponents to other side of the society. And Ömer Faruk Gergerlioğlu is also collecting all kinds of people, all colors of society, making them together. So the role of himself is very important. And this role and his type of fighting with, so I can say, so yesterday, there were lots of different, I don't know how to say. So in social media, there was a campaign, and when you look, you see lots of different people, different kind of people, from rightist to leftist, all the spectrum, in all the spectrum. LGBTI people, religious people, socialist people, leftist people, Kurdish, Turkish people. So Erdogan is trying to depart the society, and against Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Ömer Faruk Gergerlioğlu is trying to make all the society together. So this is a very, very important issue, and Erdogan's bureaucracy hates from Ömer Faruk Gergerlioğlu, because in this regime, under Erdosite implications, the government and his bureaucracy, affiliated bureaucracy, I can say, they hate from this kind of people. If you are trying to make the people, put them together, then this gives damage to Erdogan's bureaucracy's implications. So Ömer Faruk Gergerlioğlu is such a character. And he represents also directly about 10 million or 20 million people. I'm talking about all kind of opponents, Erdogan's regime's opponents. So it's directly about 20 million people, I can say. So he represents, but not only these 20 million people, he represents all more than 83 million people. Even they are not aware of this reality. So I can say these kind of things. And I can also, he's fighting against this Erdogan's regime because Erdosite makes the people, the targeted people, social murdered people. So also Faruk Gergerlioğlu is fighting against the rights of these people. So I can say now these things. But today's event, maybe you remember, I always tell that something, the victims, when we talk about Erdosite, it is not important, and whatever you did or did not, wherever you live or not, even if you are alive or not, it's not important. And today we saw this again. And people, they are asking, why was I detained? Why was I dismissed? Why was I purged? Why was I arrested? But today we saw that there is no importance of these kind of questions, because Erdogan's regime just targets some person and executes. So in short, I can say this.
All right. So, Mr. Yilmaz, what do you know about the deputy?
Evet, Ömer Faruk Gergerlioğlu hakkında ne söyleyebilirsiniz?
Ömer Faruk Gergerlioğlu mütevazi bir kişilik ve bunun
He's a
yanında muhafazakar olmasına rağmen her
he is a very humble person. He's very humble and conservative. So he's coming from a conservative culture. But evet,
bu belki Avrupa'da normal karşılanabilir ama Türkiye'de görülen bir şey değildir. Bir milletvekilinin kendine yazılan her notu bizzat kendi okuması. Yani
so
danışmanlarına değil de kendi okuması.
so in the European society, or I can say civilized society, not only European, in other countries also, maybe it is very common, but in Turkey it's not common. It's very rare. A member of parliament, he reads all the notes, all the messages by himself directly.
Ama o her şeyden önce insan hakları konusunda kimlik ayırmaksızın herkesin yardımına koştuğu için gönüllerde çok büyük bir yer etti.
So the people, as I said before, all kind of people, they loved him, and he has a very good position in their hearts. He touched their hearts because he is not differentiating the people, differentiating the society.
Ve hiç yılmadan mücadele etmesi ve mücadele etme isteği insanlara güç veriyor. İnsanlara rejimin yıkılmasıyla ya da rejimin bertaraf edilmesiyle ilgili enerji veriyor.
So he is standing still, and his will is so powerful, and his stance motivates also the other victims of this Erdogan's regime, and also this stance gives hope to all victims.
Bu rejim tarafından ezilen muhalifler için aslında bir can suyu diyebiliriz. Çevirebilecek misiniz abi?
Okay, I don't know, but Abu Hayat, Dr. Samantha, you know this as Farisi? Ab und Hayat.
Unmute her. So,
Umut ışığı diyelim abi ya da
So
ümit
a
diyelim.
light of hope. This stance gives a light of hope to the other the victims, I say. Birkaç şey daha söylemiştiniz. Onları bir daha söyler misiniz kısaca?
Onlar hangisini söylediğimi unuttum
En
ama.
son tekrar ettiğiniz
Yani mücadelesiyle insanlara rejimle mücadele için bir ümit ışığı diyelim.
So he gives with this fighting like a light of hope to the all people.
Şimdilik bu kadar. Das ist alles.
Okay, that's all now.
Yes,
all right.
nice.
So let me, before we go to Dr. Shinder, we have a guest, and I thank you so much. He's a professor, and he is joining us from Chicago. And Professor Ali Yurtsever, let's bring him in because I would like to know what he knows about the deputy. Professor, thank you so much, and I apologize for you waiting for so long, but welcome to the Global Dialogue for Justice. Please introduce yourself to our viewers. We have viewers from all places, and it's an honor and it's a real pleasure to have you from the USA. So.
Hi, this is Dr. Ali Yurtsever, professor of mathematics actually, but I'm the executive director of Huddled Masses in Chicago, headquartered in Chicago, Human Rights Foundation. So we are trying to raise awareness what's going on two tyrannies in the world, but especially in Turkey. what's going on as oppressions to the women, the children, anybody actually. Unfortunately, there are lots of operations are going on right now in Turkey, and especially the last week, we witnessed Mr. Gergerlioğlu's removal of impunity, and maybe he's going to be jailed in a week or so. We don't know that. He applied to the Constitutional Court to look for his rights. Unfortunately, he is blamed by just tweeting a very peaceful news 5 years ago. So these are very frustrating things, unfortunately, and ridiculous, and it decreases the credibility of Turkey in the world. Yeah, this is me. So if you have any questions, I would be more than welcome to answer.
Thank you, Professor. So, Dr. Shinder, so based on the responses of our distinguished panelists, what can we learn as Americans from the Deputy Ömer Faruk as a person, human rights advocate, and as a politician?
Well, I mean, if you can't see the parallels between what's going on in Western society and what's going on in Turkey, I mean, it seems to be almost a direct parallel. When you have a government that has so much power that they can take a person and take a tweet that they tweeted 5 years ago that had nothing to do really with, I think they said that he was a part of the PKK because of that, and he's obviously not. And they can cancel somebody or eroticize somebody, to use the term that we've been using, or eroticide or
Erdicide.
Erdicide, yes. Erdicide somebody based off of, well, basically he's inconvenient to the powers that be, and he might have some sort of chance with the Constitutional Court, but in a place where the government is so ruled and corrupt by people, it's really, it's such a shame. And I think that's probably where a lot of Americans, they don't see the connection between the freedom of speech that we have in our society and the freedom of speech that they should have in Turkey. I don't know. I think it's fascinating, but I think that's probably the tie-in that needs to be made so that the voice is heard more loudly. I know that. Go ahead.
And that's why we are here tonight, because that is what the deputy is fighting for, and so, so strongly. And I think the government, the Turkish government, is afraid of that loud voice.
Well, this is what happens when you have a voice of opposition and you have people that have too much power to silence voices.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big problem is that there is no rule of law in Turkey. There's no democracy. There is no human rights, freedoms. For the last 7 years, after the big corruption event in December 2013, Tayyip Erdogan ruined everything to avoid being arrested by the judiciary. So he started using the judiciary as the stick of the government to punish and to punish the people. So there's no more separation of power. Everything is under the control of Erdogan. So and people are afraid, really afraid. I am doing a lot of interviews and chats with the very prominent people of Turkey, and out of 100 people, only 5% is accepting my interview requests, because they are really afraid, and they are saying that slavery is cold. Slavery is a part of the punishment system in Turkey. The incarceration place as a jail. People are afraid to go there, even without indictments for several months or sometimes several years without indictment. People are imprisoned. So people are afraid. So that's why they are trying to flee the country. And when they are fleeing the country, around 700 people so far died in this period, around for the last 7 years, for different reasons, and some of them drowned in the Maritsa River, Evros River, between Greece and Turkey. So lots of tragedy is going on, but I don't know if it will end or not, because it increases, Erdogan increases every day. Like, for example, in the last 2-3 days, lots of things happened. Gergerlioğlu was taken by the police. Normally, the police is not allowed to go to the parliament. But with the special permit of the Speaker of the Parliament, unfortunately, tens of police got into the parliament and took Gergerlioğlu from his room when he was actually taking ablution to pray, and even they did not allow him to pray the morning prayer, and even they did not allow, the police did not allow him to wear his clothes. You cannot imagine. This is ridiculous. He is the most beloved congressman in Turkey right now. And unfortunately, he was taken his also congressman thing, and then we don't know, maybe in a week or so they will take him to the jail, because this is not very exceptional. Lots of very prominent people are in jail right now. Thousands of people. The ex-head of Public Democratic Party, Selahattin Demirtas, is in jail, and very, very prominent people, the writers, journalists, and Turkey is the biggest journalist prison right now, either equal with China or before or after that. So I don't know how it will be resolved. In the near future, people do not see any hope, but without hope, we cannot do anything. So that's why we try to keep our hope always. Thank you.
Thank you. And you mentioned the prisons, celebrity prisons. So we would like to acknowledge and the sufferings of the people there, the young prisoners that are there, and all the prisons where innocent people are currently serving, and they were there accused of crimes that they shouldn't be accused of. And we also know that there are hundreds of babies in prison in Turkey. And this is something that the international community must know, must learn about. And so that's why we are committed here at the Global Dialogue for Justice to engage our community and tell the stories of the people that are suffering right now in Turkey, because what's happening there is happening in other places in the world. And the international community must step up, must be active, must be aggressive in challenging these things. So we have viewers that we want to say thank you to. They are continuing to follow the conversation and to joining the conversation. And your contribution to this engagement is very, very important, because remember that the Global Dialogue for Justice is going to happen again for the second year, July 15 this year. So we're going to continue the series of conversation, and we invite you to join us. So the next question, this is for any one of you who wants to answer this question. What do you expect from the international community, including world leaders who claim to be watching the developments in Turkey, who claim to be deeply concerned about what's happening, including the human rights violations in the country perpetrated by the Erdogan government? So anyone?
Yeah, unfortunately, after I asked this question to the celebrities, generally they are answering as, unfortunately, because of the diplomacy and diplomatic things between the countries, they do not just explain and express their deep concern. That's it. If there's a bigger oppression, then more deeper concern. So unfortunately, they do not put any sanctions and no pressure to the governments to stop these kind of tyrannies and oppressions. So this is ridiculous, and this is very problematic because Turkey is very much engaged with the European Union and America. If they put big pressure on Turkey, then they may at least stop or decrease the oppression on the innocent people. So this is very problematic, I see. Thank you.
Yeah, Colonel, what kind of pressure do they have to put on Turkey?
There are lots of different ways of putting pressure, like for example, decreasing the trade between Turkey and America, for example, decreasing the usage of dollars, for example, euro, for example, and they are giving some kind of help to Turkey, and they will, for example, stop sending tourists to Turkey. There are lots of ways to put some pressure on Turkey, but they do not want to do that, unfortunately. This is a really big problem.
Yeah. Colonel, what do you think? You are a diplomat, and so you understand these things. What do you think we can do, or these leaders can do?
So first, the international community must recognize Erdogan as a dictator. So they need to give up saying all the time, we are very sorry. So it has no meaning. So, and the problem is not a regional problem. This is an international problem, because Erdogan is a threat to humanity, not only for Turkey, because he is affiliated, and he and his affiliated collaborators commit systematic genocide in Turkey, systematic genocidal crimes in Turkey. But all the Turkish citizens are under threat of Erdogan all over the world, because so enforced disappearances, and they are committing international crimes by supporting ISIS. So under the table, they have lots of links with terrorist organizations. They are kidnapping people. They're committing crimes, money trafficking, illegal money trafficking, oil trafficking, arms trafficking. And these are all done not by Turkey. These are all done by Erdogan's family, Erdogan himself, and his affiliated people. Erdogan represents, he is illegal. First, he is not a legal person, he is illegal. And the international community must recognize this illegality and must definitely say that, definitely announce that. So there are lots of instruments, economical instruments, but diplomatic instruments as well. And for example, International Criminal Court, United Nations instruments. There are lots of instruments under United Nations organization, and also European Council, and especially for European Court of Human Rights, the Article 33. So there is a massive breach of human rights. So this is massive violations of human rights. So this is all said in Article number 33. But just one nation, one country must claim before the European Court of Human Rights, because normally the international community thinks with numbers. So, for example, they are saying more than 10 million victims in Syrian regime, under Assad's regime in Syria. And, for example, 100 millions of people in China. Tens of millions of people somewhere else. In Turkey, when you think about numbers, relatively small numbers of victims under Erdogan's regime. But the position of Turkey is very important. So Turkey is a NATO member. So NATO organization, they also need to talk about this, because Erdogan he is undermining the international order. not only Turkish constitutional order, he is undermining also international order. So NATO organization, United Nations organization, European Council, European Court of Human Rights, International Criminal Court. So these kind of official organizations must act. And they need to get rid of this way of thinking. I am sorry, and Erdogan is a legal president. He is not. He manipulated all the system in Turkey, and he lost his manipulated legacy also. So he is completely, absolutely illegal. The international community first need to see this reality.
I am sure all the presidents of the world know that Erdogan is a dictator and very authoritarian person, but because of the concerns that I mentioned before, they cannot speak up. They cannot make their voice clear and heard by others because they have some diplomatic relations in between. So they are taking something from Turkey and to Turkey. That's why they are compromising the human rights and the democracy and the freedoms and everything just because of their own interests. You know, people generally say the countries, the governments do not like or unlike people or the governments, but they have their own interests. So that's why they compromise the human rights in Turkey because of their own interests. This is the situation, I believe. Otherwise, I'm sure all of them know that Erdogan is a dictator.
Yes, I think our viewers also is in agreement with you guys, with how the international community view Erdogan, and is saying here that one of our viewers is saying, I do not expect any substantial reaction from the world, from world leaders, unless, of course, there's interest. So I think this is really truly what's going on. So that leads us to asking the role of the media, one of the most powerful tool that we can use to challenge, to bring light to what's happening. So Mr. Yilmaz, there's a question for you. What do you want to say to members of the international media, and what can they do to bring light what's really happening in Turkey, the things that the deputy Ömer Faruk have been fighting for? So what can you say? Tell us.
Fatih Bey, bir gazeteci olarak dünya medya kuruluşlarına Türkiye'de yaşananlarla ilgili, Ömer Faruk Gergerlioğlu'nun şahsıyla ve diğer mağdurlarla ilgili neler iletmek istersiniz?
Yani aslında olan her şey dünyanın göz önünde oluyor. Ben Türkiye'de İstanbul'da çalıştığım kuruma canlı yayında, hatta Avrupa'ya bu canlı yayınlar iletiliyordu. Canlı yayın eşliğinde polis panzerlerle girdi. Biber gazlarıyla girdi.
Everything is happening in front of the eyes of the international community. And I was working in a TV channel. And when we were online, a live program, police came into the institution with panzers, so armored vehicles.
Yani ben yabancı ülke medya kuruluşlarından kendi hükümetlerine daha fazla baskı yapmalarını istiyorum. Çünkü konuşuyoruz yani sadece konuşuyoruz. Eleştiriyoruz, orada kalıyor. Ama Türkiye'de yaşanan şey devam ediyor.
So I request the international media to deliver press on their own governments, because we are always talking, explaining, telling our stories, what is happening, trying to explain what's happening in Turkey, but we are just talking. So they are not heard. And the international media organizations, members of media, journalists, they need to press on their own governments.
Şu an biz burada konuşuyorken bile Türkiye'de hapiste bir sürü insana hala işkence ediliyor.
So, as we are talking here now, even lots of people are tortured in jails in Turkey.
Yani artık eylem zamanı,
Now time
bir
to
şeyler
act.
görme zamanı.
And time to act and time to see some reactions.
Bu sadece Türkiye içinde geçerli değil. Uygur bölgesi olsun, dünyanın başka yerleri olsun. Birçok yerde bu tarz zulümler, bu tarz baskılar devam ediyor.
And
Dünyayı komple
so all these kind of persecutions are applied in Turkey, not only in Turkey, in Syria, in the Uyghurs region, Xinjiang region in China. So the international community must also see and hear these voices.
söylemler evet değerli ama artık eylem zamanı.
Talking is very valuable, but now it is time to react.
Teşekkür ederim.
Thanks.
Actually, the media in Turkey is silenced for a long time, has been silenced for a long time, for the last 7 years. Actually, we were not aware that Tayyip Erdogan started silencing the media in his first ruling times, but we didn't know that. After the corruption case, it was appeared on the surface of the water. So people started complaining about the pressure on the media. For example, if somebody writes something against Erdogan or his party, and Erdogan and his guys called the newspaper administration to remove that person from the newspaper, from the being a writer in that newspaper, and fire him or her from the institution. So this is very sad. As we all know, media is the fourth power in any country, but in Turkey it is not for a long time. And in non-democratic countries, this is the same, and this is the case in non-democratic countries, and media is silenced. But the good thing is that we have social media right now, and we are now broadcasting through YouTube, where anybody in the world can watch us. Like, for example, we just had finished one protest event organized by AST, Advocates of Silence Turkey, headquartered in New Jersey, and 31,000 people joined. 31,000 people joined in the live protest event, and many prominent people spoke there, and millions of people can watch from now on throughout the world. So these are good things to raise awareness, be the voice of the voiceless. But as my brother here said, it's a time of action, not only talk, and we have to walk. So actually, these are not unnecessary things. These are very important things to raise awareness. After raising the awareness, people start putting some action. And the action might be a civil disobedience. Civil disobedience is very important. And this is what I heard from the celebrities of Turkey. They said we have to do that. So, for example, Gergerlioğlu case was a civil disobedient case in the parliament, and people started visiting him, and he broadcasted from his room to the world that he was captured. His impunity was removed by the parliament unrightfully. So these can be seen as private small things, but when you add them up, it will come to a point where the ruler party, the government, cannot overcome. So I hope those days are coming.
All right, so let's ask our scholars again, Dr. Samantha Shinder. So
Yes.
what can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. Okay, so what can scholars and educators do globally to raise awareness on human rights issues as well as advocacy for victims of torture and injustices in Turkey and other places in the world?
Well, part of it is drawing the parallels between our society and what's happening in their society. Any good scholar can look at a situation and look at a different situation and see different differences and similarities. But I think it's also important that we take a look at the social media that everybody is using across the globe and ensure that we keep it a free platform that people can express these views, because obviously there are plenty of people on the planet that know that Erdogan is a dictator. However, it's not convenient for them to think or to say or express these opinions out loud or to conduct policy in ways that would suppress Erdogan and his powers. So we need to make sure that these platforms stay open so that people can voice their dissent. And right now we're going through a lot of debate on the protections that these types of platforms have and what they can and can't publish. And I mean, feasibly, we're in a situation where, say in the United States, they decide it's not politically savvy for them to support dissension against the Erdogan dictatorship. Well, they could just take this off the line. They could just take this whole discussion and throw it out. And we need to make sure, as people who are more connected to people in power, that we have a voice right now, is to make sure that it stays open and so that people can have a voice. And then I think also as scholars, we need to start drawing more parallels and seeing the similarities between our society and other people's society, and realize that, yes, we're connected in a global scheme, but we're also, we have parallel issues in our society. Ours might not be as dire, obviously, as what's going on in Turkey, but they could be.
Yes.
Let it continue that way.
Yeah, and you see, I believe that the scholars in the 21st century, you know what I've done, is that, you know, I'm a non-traditional scholar. So I travel the world, I make the world my classroom, and I share the stories of people and try to contribute even a little by trying to bring our communities together through the stories and through conversations and through creating this kind of contents and events that I bring to you and engage the global community. And this is not accepted yet mainstream. You know, when I did it from 2014, right after my graduation at New Mexico State University, I told them that my publication will be something that moves, talks, cry, fly. And they said, "What? Are you crazy?" But I think if we combine this with the traditional publication and the traditional way of teaching, I think, you know, we can really make a difference in the world today. And I'm just waiting, and I'm so extremely grateful that there are traditional scholars now that are wanting to speak with me and to join the conversation. So I think we're moving a little bit there. So something is happening, and I'm very happy about that.
May I also share something?
Yes, Carmen.
So also when I started tweeting, so I said these tweets are my global case study notes to myself. So I am tweeting to myself normally, basically. And so, for example, I don't have some notebook. So when I just remember something, I make a tweet and I publish. So later on, I look at my tweets and I use them as a global case studies. So this is also some unconventional way of working, I can say, or way of fighting for democracy, for human rights.
Well, it's important that your notes stay where they're supposed to be as well. we're running into issues where tweets are being deleted and people are being blocked and different types of things like that. And what would you do if if all your notes that you have on social media, if they just went away?
So
It would be a tragedy.
sometimes I collect them, and also my these 3 books, not 4 but 3 books, are a product of my tweets. So in my books I used a square code, and when you use your handy to read this square code, you just directly reach to my tweet. So my books are alive because my tweets are always changing, and I share my tweets as flutes, not individual tweets. So each flute is a case, is a file of some subject, some thing.
And also, all the academics must speak out by writing, by informing their students with what's going on in Turkey and in the other parts of the world as tyrannies and oppressions, and also writing books and organizing conferences. Now, here in United States, California State University organized a conference to be held next week, Saturday. I just sent the link to the chat part of YouTube. Please look at that, and please share this with your network so that people will share it and then join and attend that conference. The conference theme is the contemporary decline in Turkish academia and brain drain. So this is very timely conference. Unfortunately, 16 universities were shut down in that period, and thousands of academics were purged and dismissed from their jobs, and they were not hired in other institutions. So they are left to starvation, and some of them fled the country, and this is also causing the brain drain for Turkey. And so these will all be discussed by very prominent professors, and some of them are the purged academics of Turkey. One of them is Serkan Gölge, for example. He was working in NASA, and when he came to Turkey to visit his family, he was sentenced, and 4 years, you cannot imagine, 4 years, innocent person who is working in NASA. He's a great scholar. So he was sentenced and jailed in Turkey. Now he came back to United States, and now he started working at NASA again. And one of them is Boğaziçi, the best university of Turkey, Boğaziçi University physics professor Ali Kaya. He was jailed in Turkey, and he continued to write articles in the jail. And Nature magazine, which is one of the most prominent magazines of the world, science magazine, Professor Ali Kaya was interviewed by Nature magazine, and it was released to the whole world. So these people will speak about the purges that they got through, and also the prominent American professors will talk about the brain drain and the purge in Turkey. So I will definitely and strongly encourage you to attend that conference next week, Saturday, between 11 and 3 p.m. Central US time. And please share this with your network. So this is a kind of contribution of academics to the world in terms of raising awareness and being the voice of the voiceless. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor. So Dr. Bayram, I can see you. So he's on the chat right now. So thank you so much for joining, and we will continue this conversation. We are concluding our presentation tonight. And of course, thinking of the loudest voice in Turkey, fighting for justice, the deputy, the people's deputy. We are thinking of you, we are standing with you, and we're fighting with you. So Colonel Demirtaş, please say your message and your best wishes to the deputy.
So, thanks a lot. So I just want to share something. It's an opinion adopted by the United Nations Human Rights Council Working Group on Arbitrary Detention. So this working group delivered 4 different opinions, and the same with the same sentence or paragraph, I can say. It says, in the past 3 years, and now I can say 5 years, the working group has noted a significant increase in the number of cases brought to it concerning arbitrary detention in Turkey. So we are witnessing one today. The working group expresses its concern over the pattern that all these cases follow and recalls that under certain circumstances, widespread or systematic imprisonment or other severe deprivation of liberty in violation of the rules of international law may constitute crimes against humanity. So it's very clear. You see, crimes against humanity, this massive deprivation of liberties of individuals, arbitrarily, selectively. So it's here officially said. And the next step of crime against humanity is genocide. Officially. So I say personally, but officially, United Nations says it is, or it may, but politely may means it is. It is crimes against humanity. So I need to call the international community, please get rid of thinking get rid of your silence, because this silence fed also Hitler. And in our century, 21st century, we don't need a new Hitler, because Hitler ignited a world war, you know, and more than 40 or 50 million of people were killed because of this silence, and hundreds of millions of families maybe were dispersed all over the world. We don't need a new Hitler in our age.
Mr. Yilmaz, would you like to say your message to the world and also your best wishes to the deputy?
Ömer Bey'e özellikle iyi dileklerinizle ilgili ve dünya kamuoyuna bir mesajınız var mı?
Unmute.
Unmute, yeah. It's muted. Sesiniz yok. Sesi açın Ömer Bey.
Ömer Bey'in aktif bir şekilde yaptığı direnişe devam etmesini istiyorum. Dünya kamuoyundan da ya Ömer Bey'in verdiği ve diğer mağdurların verdiği bu mücadeleyi daha fazla duyurmalarını talep ediyorum.
So I request Mr. Ömer Faruk Gergerlioğlu, the member of parliament or deputy, to go on his fighting against this fighting for democracy. And also I request the international community to hear our voices more and more.
And thank you so much. And finally, Dr. Samantha Shinder.
What else is there to say? I mean, I want the international community to pay attention to what's going on in the world, especially in Turkey. I hope that Dr. Gergerlioğlu gets out of prison soon. I mean, I hope that the charges that are brought against him are dropped, because they're basically just because he's inconvenient and he's a voice of dissonance. And I hope that he continues to be one and is allowed to continue his human rights work.
That's something that we can be sure of, that the deputy is not going to stop. They cannot silence him, and he's going to continue his advocacy and he's fighting for the victims of torture and the new forms of genocide in Turkey, especially those who are the most vulnerable, the babies that are currently in prison. So I'd like to thank all our participants, everybody who's tuned in to our conversation. And I hope that you will join us again next time. We have Fly for Justice coming up, and I invite you to watch out, and we will give you an update. So once again, thank you so much. The Global Dialogue for Justice 2021. This is Merge. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.
We are finished, okay? Are we?
Yes, thank you, Colonel.
Okay, thanks. Bye.